A little 13-month-old boy was burned horribly, scalded in a hot bathtub, over 60% of his body. This photos and the story from his parents when they called to hire me to investigate and to see if there was any way to recover compensation, that story nearly killed me. And then when I met him, oh my goodness, my heart just went out to this little boy, a handsome little boy, who now for the rest of his life is going to be having these scars to deal with and the problems, the surgeries, the medical treatment, all of the things that he's going to go through, and not to mention the psychological counseling and therapy that most likely he's going to need. The costs for this are just going to be absolutely enormous. His parents hired me to try to recover compensation for them, for him, and I'm damned if I'm not going to be able to do this. My name is Paul Samakow. I'm an attorney, and I'm doing this little video because if you are a burn survivor, there's a good chance that you may not even realize that compensation might be available for you. Not in all cases, but in most cases where people have been burned, there is compensation available. The cost of medical treatment, and then later the therapy for psychological and emotional treatment, if and when that becomes necessary or appropriate, can be enormous, can be off the charts. And if you're like most today, you probably don't have a bankroll to pay for all that. And maybe you have good health insurance and maybe you don't. So where is the money coming from for this very, very needed treatment? And again, the answer is that more often than not, there is some entity or some person or some company who is responsible, and likely it is that they have what is called liability insurance. Now, when people make videos like this, they want to just talk. So pardon me that I'm going to use a piece of paper, some notes, and I'm going to read from this because it's important for you to understand this. Burn injury compensation is expensive. There are approximately 500,000 Americans every year, according to the American Burn Association, who receive medical treatment for burn injuries, including over 40,000 hospitalizations and more than 3,200 deaths. Staggering. This is from fire and smoke inhalation alone. This has nothing to do with many other types of burns that people can suffer. On average, someone dies from a fire or smoke inhalation every 2 hours and 41 minutes. It's frightening. The concept of the compensation that's available is even more important to understand, because you should not go this alone. You should not just assume, oh well. You should investigate, and that means calling an experienced attorney. Yes, like me. The cost of the average hospitalization for a burn injury is double, sometimes triple, what another type of hospitalization might cost. Let me just read to you this list from the American Burn Association as to some understanding as to why burn injury treatment is so expensive. Severe burns can damage many systems in the body, creating very multiple medical problems. This is what makes it so expensive to treat. Some of these injuries, damage to the outer layer of the skin, the epidermis, nerve damage of the body if the burn disrupts or damages the neuropathic system, bacterial infection, which may lead to a bloodstream infection called sepsis, fluid loss, including low blood volume, dangerously low body temperature, hypothermia, muscle, ligament, and tendon damage, breathing problems from the intake of hot air or smoke, scars or rigid areas caused by an overgrowth of scar tissue. Sometimes these are called keloids. Bone and joint problems, such as when scar tissue causes the shortening and tightening of skin, muscles, or tendons. My little 13-month-old boy client, his toes were so badly mangled in the hot, scalding water that he went into that he has now had 5 surgeries on each foot in order to be able to just straighten his toes much less stand up, and much less even run. He's now over 2 years old and he's just now starting to stand. So where can burn injuries happen? Well, pretty much anywhere. They can happen in your home. These statistics show that most of these come from the kitchen. And you say, well, if a kitchen accident happens, why should I be looking for compensation? It's because of the potential of a product malfunction or something that was an explosion that shouldn't have exploded. So there's all measure of investigation that can ultimately determine that what did happen shouldn't have happened and somebody should be responsible. If you go to the workplace and you have an injury there, again, we could have any number of products or equipment or devices that malfunction that would make not only your employer responsible, but potentially the maintenance of those products or devices or equipment or the manufacturer of those things. We go all over the world and we do this and we do that, and we find situations that could potentially be dangerous. Medical malpractice is a type of specialized personal injury case. We know that a doctor or a hospital theoretically might have done something wrong. This isn't medical malpractice. This is equipment. This is maintenance. This is defective products, equipment, this sort of thing that we could call malpractice, but it's not malpractice because it's not a service. It's a product or device that doesn't work properly or doesn't work the way it should work. Let's even take something like an automobile collision. We know that we like to have the safety of the airbags that will explode and prevent us from having real serious injuries. But sometimes those airbags, they don't do what they're supposed to do in terms of the chemicals that then can come out and burn you badly. Now, I've seen many of these actually, and fortunately they're surface burns and they get better in 2 or 3 or 5 or 4 or 5, 6 weeks. But if there's more serious burns that come from that, there's a potential claim against the automobile manufacturer and the manufacturer of the airbag. I don't want to keep you. I could keep going on and on and on. I want to just share with you one thing. If it is that you are a burn survivor and you have not yet investigated the possibility of looking into the potential for compensation from some entity that was negligent or caused the injuries that you are now suffering from, you owe it to yourself to pick up the phone and call an experienced burn injury attorney. They don't charge to talk to you. They're more than happy to try and help and answer questions. You'll in fact never pay that lawyer anything out of your pocket because the fees come at the end when the recovery is made, typically against an insurance company. It's typically a contingent fee or a percentage. The contingency is that money needs to be recovered before the attorney takes a fee. Again, my name is Paul Samakow and I would be delighted to help you. You can call me at the number on the screen. It's 1-833-MY-BURNS. 1-833-MY-BURNS. And if you do call me, I'll send you a copy of my book. It's called Twice Burned. I know that having this book will be a very, very good resource and a very good source of information for you. And I also have an entire section in this book of resources so that you can go in your local community and nationally to get all measure of things that can help you with the process of healing. Best to you.